Have you ever been told you think too much? That you analyze things to death? That you can't just let something go? That your brain is like a browser with 47 tabs open, and half of them are playing music, and you don't know which ones? Maybe you've even called yourself an overthinker, worn it like something broken that needs fixing. But what if that's not true? What if your overthinking isn't a flaw? What if it's actually evidence of something most people will never understand? Let's find out. Sign 1. You live inside your own mind. You spend more time in your head than you do in the room you're actually standing in. While other people are just reacting, you're analyzing. While they scroll, you sink into thoughts, into questions, into patterns most people never notice. Psychologists call this metacognition, thinking about thinking. And here's what's interesting. Most people barely do it. They experience emotions and just feel them. They encounter problems and just react. You don't. You step back and watch your own mind work. You ask why you feel what you feel. You trace thoughts back to their source. That's not overthinking. That's depth. And depth is rare. Sign 2. Someone says something casual at lunch. 3 days later, you connect it to a pattern you noticed 6 months ago, and suddenly, you understand why that relationship fell apart, why that project failed, why that friend drifted away. People call this overthinking. Psychologists call it associative processing. Your brain doesn't store information in neat little boxes. It weaves everything together. And the more you take in, the more you read, observe, reflect, the richer that web becomes. This is why creative geniuses, scientists, and philosophers often describe their breakthroughs as sudden connections. Two distant ideas finally touch. You live in that space constantly. That's not a glitch. That's a supercomputer. Sign 3. Most people stop at the surface. Something happens, they accept it, they move on. You can't. You need to understand the mechanism, the root cause, the hidden motivation. You don't just want to know what happened, you need to know why. This makes some people uncomfortable. It makes you seem difficult, intense. But here's the part that really gets me. Research on intellectual giftedness consistently finds this trait. A psychologist named Kazimierz Dabrowski called it intellectual overexcitability, a mind that doesn't know how to be passive, that treats information like food and won't stop eating. You're not difficult. You're hungry for understanding in a world that's satisfied with surface-level answers. Sign 4. 3 days before an important conversation, you're already running through it. What they might say, how you'll respond, every possible branch of the dialogue tree. It feels exhausting. It feels like anxiety. But here's the reframe. Your brain is running simulations. The same way chess grandmasters play out moves before touching a piece. The same way military strategists war game scenarios before battle. You're not worrying, you're preparing. The problem isn't the simulation. The problem is when you believe every simulation is a prophecy. When you treat the worst-case scenario like it's the most likely one. That's not overthinking. That's strategic thinking that needs one small adjustment. Remember this. Your brain's job is to keep you safe. It will always show you the danger first. Your job is to look at all the simulations and ask, which one is actually probable? Sign 5. Something hurts. Someone disappoints you. A comment lands wrong. Most people feel it and move on. You feel it, then you think about why you felt it. Then you think about what it reminds you of. Then you connect it to something from childhood. Then you realize the person who hurt you was probably hurting too, and now you're not even angry anymore. You're just sad for everyone. This is emotional depth coupled with analytical processing. Psychologists call it cognitive empathy, the ability to not just feel what others feel, but to understand it, map it, trace it. It's exhausting, but it's also what makes you the person people trust with their hardest moments. You don't just react to emotions, you understand them. And that understanding? It's not weakness. It's wisdom most people never develop. Sign 6. What to eat, what to wear, which movie to watch. Tiny decisions that other people make in seconds. You can spiral on for 20 minutes. And you've probably called this indecisiveness, paralysis, a personality flaw. But think about what's actually happening. Your brain is considering variables that other people don't even register. Long-term consequences, hidden trade-offs, the way this choice connects to other choices. The problem isn't that you're bad at decisions. The problem is that you see more complexity than the decision requires. This is why highly intelligent people are often slower to decide. They see more branches, more nuance. The skill isn't learning to stop seeing the complexity. It's learning when to say, good enough, and move forward anyway. Sign 7. You can't turn it off at night. The lights go out. The world gets quiet. And suddenly, your brain decides it's time for a full system audit. Every conversation you had today, everything you should have said differently, every problem you haven't solved yet, every fear about the future, queued up like a playlist you didn't ask for. And you lie there thinking, why can't just be normal? Why can't just stop? Here's what no one tells you. Your brain processes during rest. That's when it consolidates memories, solves problems, makes creative connections. You know how you sometimes wake up with the answer to something you couldn't figure out the night before? That's not magic. That's your brain working while you're not. The problem isn't that your brain is active at night. The problem is that you've trained it to associate bedtime with anxiety instead of trust. Your mind is doing its job. It's trying to solve, protect, understand. It's not broken. It's just working the night shift. The deeper truth. And maybe, this is the part that really matters. Maybe everything just described isn't a disorder. Maybe it's a profile. Researchers who study high intellectual ability keep finding the same cluster of traits: deep processing, emotional intensity, associative thinking, constant questioning, anticipatory anxiety, rich inner life. Sound familiar? A psychologist named Lita Hollingworth spent her career studying gifted children and found something surprising. She found that the more intelligent a child was, the more likely they were to struggle with exactly what you struggle with. Not because something was wrong with them, but because their minds worked differently in a world designed for minds that don't. The overthinking isn't the problem. The problem is, you've been measuring yourself against a standard that was never built for you. How many of these signs describe you? Let me know in the comments. And if this shifted something for you, if it helped you see the thing you've been ashamed of as maybe, just maybe, a form of intelligence you haven't been giving yourself credit for, then follow Milo. Because your mind isn't too loud. It's just tuned to a frequency most people can't hear. And that's not a weakness.